Hello everyone. Today I'm taking a look at the VanTop Moment 4C. This is a camera that boasts of being capable of 4K 60 and also has an EIS feature. Inside the box you get all of this stuff. Now, I know in the past I've said that freebies are usually a red flag, but hey, the Akaso had freebies, and the Akaso was pretty decent. So, maybe I gotta stop being so negative, and I gotta just judge the camera objectively. So, here's a closer look at the camera. It's pretty typical layout. Power button, / menu button, record button, LED, tripod mount, that's nice to have. Battery cover. It feels pretty solid, unlike the V50 Elite. There's a pull tab on the battery. So far so good. It feels pretty polished. Alright, now let's just peel this. That's out of focus, but whatever. So this whole thing is a touchscreen, which is very nice. Let's power it up. No! No! It's the same stupid chip in the Napasa. Alright, I haven't seen the video yet, so maybe there's still a chance it might be decent. Okay, so it does say that it can go up to 4K 60, but I don't know, I'm having doubts. And slow motion wise, it can go up to 720 to 40 FPS. That's pretty decent. Alright, here we go, and it's just bad. It's just bad. The EIS is terrible. With every step I take, there's a very noticeable vibration. In which case, why even have EIS be a feature if you can't do EIS? You might notice that there's no audio in these clips. That's because there's a quick toggle on the camera that disables your audio, which I accidentally hit. Dynamic range is fairly lacking. If you look at any of the sunlit rocks, they're completely blown out, but the rest of the scene is fairly well exposed. Here is some more horrible image stabilization. Now, despite the menu saying that it can record 4K 30 FPS, when I go into the video properties, it's only 4K 24 FPS. I think this camera likes to over-sharpen things a bit. If you look at any distant object, there's a weird shimmering effect around the edges. It's a little distracting. Detail-wise, the 4K video doesn't actually look too bad. Colors on this camera are fairly warm, and I think they're a little oversaturated for my liking. Here is the headline feature of the Moment 4C, the 4K 60 FPS. First thing to note is that there is no EIS in 4K 60. I guess sacrifices have to be made. The video doesn't look too bad. It's got this minor problem where the 4K 60 isn't actually 60 FPS, making this a complete lie. Here is the video played back at 1.6% speed. Now if this was truly 60 FPS, you'd get a nice 1 frame per second. I've even included a timer to help you keep track, and it's very apparent that it's not 1 frame per second. Now, to make sure my math isn't wrong, I applied the same thing to the 1080-60 mode, and yeah, the 1080-60 is actually 60 FPS. Speaking of 1080-60, let's take a look at that. and it's bad. They can call this 1080p. It doesn't change the fact that it's not 1080p. If you look at the rail here, there's some very, very noticeable stair-stepping. It also seems to me that the stabilization is a lot worse, especially compared to the 2K mode. Some low light video, and don't use it in low light. That's all I can really say. Let's look at some slow motion. Here is the 1080p 120 FPS played back 4 times slower, and it looks pretty decent. .720p to 40 FPS slowed down 8 times, and again, it's pretty decent. Here is a 4K time-lapse, and the detail on here looks better than the detail on the normal 4K video. What's going on there? Let's do a mode comparison. Sorry, I got sick while editing, that's why I sound like this. Anyway, I've got 4K 60, 4K 30, 1080 60, and 1080 30. It's pretty difficult to make out such small details, so here's a 300% zoom in. I'd say 1080 60 is the most blocky, followed by 1080 30, and then the 4Ks are around on par with each other. Probably because they are the same thing, you know, because it's not actually 60 FPS. So just for fun, here's a comparison with my V50 Elite. 4K 30 FPS. And I'd say the V50 definitely has cooler, less saturated colors, but detail-wise I'll have to give the edge to the V50. Alright, V50 versus Moment 4C stabilization test. Here is a comparison with my Polaroid Cube. I definitely give the edge to the Moment 4C here. If you look at distant details, like the palm trees in the back, they're definitely more noticeable on the 4C. Some final things to note. This camera doesn't like to handle the date very well. Now this file was supposedly created at 4 AM, but the timestamp on the video is 12 PM, and that's when it was actually created, so I don't know what's going on there. This camera lasts for 1 hour and 41 minutes of 4K video on a single charge. That's pretty good. My initial impression of this camera was very sour. Hearing that startup chime and looking at 1080 60 first was definitely not a good combination, but now that I've given it a chance, I can say it's okay. It definitely doesn't live up to the box claims though. This camera struggles with any high frame rate modes. Even if we disregard the fake 4K 60, 1080 60 doesn't even look that good. In perfect conditions, yes, the EIS can do a pretty good job, but 90% of the time, the conditions aren't perfect, and you get video that looks like this. Overall, it's certainly not as terrible as the Napasa or the Explorer one, but it's still not that great.